This is the third stage where we are adding, searching, sorting and paging. You can't see the paging in this example. That's what we're going to be doing. So we're going to start on sorting. I'm going to be adding this in MVC to the index method, and we're basing it on a name sort and a date sort. So this code has to be copied. I'm just going to copy the inside bit, I think. And paste it into the index method. Notice that the index method now has a parameter called sort order. If we go down to the code, you can see the original index method had no parameter. So we need to add a string sort order as a parameter to the index method. And I'm replacing the index method with that copied code. Okay, now you can see a second form of the link. There's two ways of doing link queries. One is is similar to SQL. This is the form here we're using, where it's almost the same as SQL now. That's our select. Here we are storing in the view data a name or a date sort parameter, depending on whether the sort order is null or empty. So I think if it is null, then it'll be a date sort order. If it isn't null, it's going to be a name sort order. And it could be name descending or ascending, date ascending or descending. Those are what the string values might be. Name descending, date descending, or nothing, the default value. So the default value means there won't be anything in this sort order parameter. So what we're doing is we're selecting all the students from the students and then ordering it in different ways before returning it as a list. This is an async method, so it does wait until all the records are retrieved. So obviously you can read this explanation for more details. Okay, so we're now going to add column heading hyperlinks in order to indicate which sort order we want, which means altering the index page. Okay, so the first is to use the view data sort parameter here to indicate the sort order. I think that's the only two changes we're going to make. So we're going to make that change. So this is the student index page where we got last name, first name and enrollment date. I'm going to paste on top of that line. I'm going to fold it over so we can read it. Because first of all, it's the index action, and we have this ASP root called sort order, which we get from the view data and the name sort order. And then inside the tag, we are just displaying the name as before. So I'm going to fold it over like that to make it more readable. And we've got something similar for date. And we'll try it. So what we've done is to make the column headings a link. Column headings, two of the column headings should be a link when we go to students. Yep, look there, they're in a different colour, and you can see they respond in a different way. So let's try enrollment date, shall we? Yep, seems to have worked. It's gone in ascending order there. That's descending order. That's ascending order. That's descending order. And it works. What you may not have noticed, it works because the root, the URL up here, has been altered. You can see it has localhost students and there has a question mark, sort order equals name descending. And that changes if I click on this again. Name descending disappeared. Name descending's back. Click on this one, we have order equals date. Order equals date descending. So we're using a parameter on the URL to pass that information across. We're now moving on to adding a search box. So we're going to modify the index method again, adding an extra parameter which is a search string, and if the search string isn't empty, we're going to be getting all the students where the last name contains the search string, or the first name contains the search string. If the search string is empty, we'll be looking at search order instead. So that's what we're doing. So I'm going to copy this line. So we've put the search string into the view data current filter and have added search string as a parameter. So I've now added this extra line that if the search string isn't empty, then we use the search string and we find all the students where the first name or last name contains the search string. We now need to add a search box to the view. So I'm going to copy this form and put it after creating a new student. So it's going to go here. So here we have an input text box, and we put the current search term in, and then we wait for the submit button. Okay, so we're going to run it now. So there's our search box. Let's go for Norm. Go for Norm and pound Norman. Yep. And back to list should undo it. Yep, it does. Excellent. We're now moving on to paging. I don't think when it comes to your projects, I don't think you need to do paging, because you won't have enough data to make paging really needed. But in terms of your logbooks, I do want you to have tried paging in this example. So okay, what we want is previous and next buttons down the bottom and a limited list of students displayed on each page. I think they've limited to 3 just so we can go to our next 3 students. But obviously in the real world it would be more like 10 or 20 students per page. Okay, so the first stage of that is to add a new class called a paginatedlist.cs. So let's copy this paginated list. I'll copy it from there down to there, and I think we'll add it to the The data folder or the models folder? I think the data folder. And call it a paginated list. .cs. Now I'm going to paste in what I copied on top of that bit, the class. Okay, it may need some usings. So this asynchronous, not finding this. I'm just going to copy the whole lot, I think. No, it looks much the same. Right, let's try now. Yep, it's happy now. I think I don't like long lines. Right. Let's multiply. Let's do things multiplied together. Again, we've got a long line here, which I'll probably fold over like that, so it's more readable. Otherwise, I think that's okay. So we have a page index and a total number of pages, which we can get but can't set. Okay. Anyway, let's just try a build and make sure that works. Okay, now we need to add things to the index method again. So in our parameter list now we need a sort order and a search string, which we've got. I don't think we've got current filter and a nullable page number. Notice the question mark there means nullable. This integer can be null. I don't like the question mark way of indicating a nullable int. I'll do something different. Oh dear. Page number. That's better. Right, now it's happy. Although I think it still wants us to use the question mark. Yes, it does. It wants us to use the question mark. I'm not going to ignore that. Okay, then we need to store the sort order in the current sort. Thought we'd done that. No, we haven't. Okay. So there was another view data. So we're storing the current sort. The sort order as the current sort in the view data. Otherwise the name sort parameter is the same. And then we're adding, right, I've got two screens, I'm putting them side by side to get this right. So I've got these 4 parameters now. There are 4 parameters to the index: the sort order, the current filter, the search string and the page number. The sort order is getting stored in current sort. The name sort parameter is getting stored and the date sort parameter is getting stored. And then, before we start getting the students, there's a new if statement going in, which is to check whether the search string is not null. If it isn't null, the page number is 1. Else the search string is the current filter. And then we're storing current filter, the search string, as the current filter. The rest is the same. The rest is the same right down to the end, though. There is something right at the end before we return the view, which is to set the page size. Which has been set. I'm going to set it to 4. It's been set to 3. So we set the page size to a particular number, which should be a constant in the controller, and then the return statement has been changed. So I'm going to put the new return statement in here. So the new return statement uses the paginated list to create students based on page number or page size. And that whole statement is going to go. So we're returning a view based on a paginated list rather than an ordinary list. That does build. There is an explanation of this. That if there is a search string, then we need to restart the page numbering at 1. If you're searching, page numbering has to be restarted. That's what that's there for. I've decided to try out Visual Studio 2022, see if it makes anything easier or more difficult. So I'm working on my MVC Contoso. Okay, so far no different. Let's try and run it. Okay, same message, unfortunately. I think I've got it on the dark theme though. Oh, it's already opened on my other screen. Yep, no problems. Okay, no problems so far. Okay, so we now need to change our index page to handle the paging. We're going to go to Views, Students, Index Page, and right down the bottom we're going to put some extra code. So I'm just copying this code from the tutorial at the bottom of the index page. You can see it can't recognize as previous page, as next page, because I have forgotten to change the top of the index page. So if you look at the tutorial, there's an @model paginated list, so I'm going to copy that bit, and that replaces what we had before, which is just an IEnumerable of student. So we've now got a paginated list of student instead. Okay, finally sorted it. Right, we have to have a using, so we can use the paginated list, which I put in the data folder, and a using for models to get at the student. Now finally the paginated list works. The other thing we're going to do, because we've changed to a paginated list, we can't access the display name for, which is last name. So they've just changed that. So we're just putting in last name. And same with first name, we can't get a first name either. These are just labels for the columns. And finally the enrollment date here. Okay, so I'm running it. There's the previous button, there's the next button, so we've got 4 names only displayed. When we click on next, we get the next 4 names. There's only 8 students, so that's the limit of it. It is now working. Finally, we're going to do one more page. We're going to do an About page, which uses the database. I know a number of teams wanted an About page, but didn't put anything on it which required the database, but this is an example. And it's also an example of creating what's called a view model, which essentially is a model specially made to make the view easier. And in this case, we're going to create an enrollment date group. So I'm going to copy this and put this in the models folder. You can see it has a nullable date time. The question mark there indicates nullable. I don't like that notation. So I'm just going to use the word nullable instead. One difference using Visual Studio 2022, it didn't put these usings in. I had to put them in manually, which it normally puts in for you. That's a small negative towards 2022. Anyway, let's move on. Microsoft then will say we need to add some usings. My usual take on this is let's add the code that requires the usings and work it out from there. So we're going to add these lines to the home controller. Obviously we don't have a school context, we have an application DB context. Okay, can't find the application DB context, so I'm adding the data folder in the usings. Otherwise it's happy now. At the end of the day we've ended up with two constructors, one which has an iLogger and one which has an iLogger and a data context. Don't know whether we need to take one of these out. I think we may. We may not need that. Let me comment that one out. Because I don't think we need it if we've got this new constructor. Okay, now we're going to add an about method. You can see the next thing to do is add this about method. So I'll put it after the index method. Okay, here's where we may need another using. Yep, in entity framework. Okay, but otherwise it's alright. And what we're doing here is grouping students by enrollment date. It's using the different kind of link syntax here, using the SQL group method. Okay, then we go back to the thing, we need to create the view. So I'm just going to copy this view and add a view. So I actually put the view model in the models folder, which is why I didn't need a using. We're going to the views, we're going to the home views now, and we're adding a new view. Actually, I don't normally do it that way. What I normally do is I right click in here and add a view. It should do it for us. It's gone for an MVC view, which is empty. Let's try adding that. That's not working as it usually does, because it's going to call it index 1, which is not what I wanted. Nope. Okay, I'll do it the hard way then. I'm going to right click on the home folder, add a view. So that's a view with or without a strongly typed. I'm not quite sure which one I want. Let me try this one. So it's an empty view. I didn't give it a name, did I? I've ended up with it being called View, which wasn't right. Okay, let's rename it. I want it called About. Okay, and so that's going to be, well, we've got some code to paste in there. There's the view we're going for. We'll need to change this. So it's not as it isn't in the school view models folder, it is just in the models folder, so I can take that out. And it should then find it. Yep, it has. It should build now. Okay, and then we should better run it and see where that gets us. Okay, we haven't got a link to it. Oh, in my renaming I have put 2 dots between About and CS-HTML. I just need to take one of those dots out. Let's try again. There we go. So we have some statistics in the About page on how many students there are in each of the date groups. Okay, so that's all we need for logbook 3. You can do this in MVC or Razor Pages. I'm going to repeat this in Razor Pages now. This was MVC.